Most uncomfortable looking man in a gym 2020, Kevin Lynch swaps his leotard for a mechanic's overall as he takes the lead on Project Titan, Apple's incredibly well kept secret, the Apple Car. I'm Dave, and I simplify Apple so that everything just works for you. And if you want the latest Apple leaks, news and rumours every weekday at 12 UTC, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring my bell. Following the departure of Doug Field, the former lead on the Apple Car project, software executive Kevin Lynch has stepped into the role to continue developing the car platform. Doug leaves to rejoin Ford, where he started his career. Lynch, of course, comes from a software background, but is surrounded by an experienced collection of automotive executives. It also appears that Apple has abandoned the plan to partner with another automaker in order to manufacture their car, and are in fact working to source all the parts they will need for their own production. As if it comes as a surprise, the Apple Car will be electric, self-driving, and most likely pretty luxurious, at least until it's re-released 2 years later as the Apple Car SE when the new model arrives. We're always being hit by a barrage of Apple Car leaks through the patent process, so there's always some information out there, and I think we should do a big roundup of the Apple Car stuff that we know sometime after the big event's out the way. iPhone 13 last-minute leaks. 91 Mobiles has found a Ukrainian retailer that has basically leaked all of the iPhone models, colours and storage options online. So we're going to get the iPhone 13 mini, which will come in 6 colours: black, blue, purple, pink, white and product red. The iPhone 13 will apparently also use the same colours, whereas the iPhone 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max will come in black, silver, gold and bronze, basically confirming what we expected. For storage, the iPhone 12 mini is said to come in 64 and 128 gig configurations. The 13 is going to start at 128 and have a 256 gig option. The 13 Pro will have the same, and then the iPhone 13 Pro Max is going to have a 256 starting point and a 512 gig option. So Apple's actually reducing the number of options here. And in some news that is basically just breaking as I'm recording this episode, Fortnite has asked Apple if they can have their developer account back because Korea now says that they're allowed to charge through their own payment processor now instead of going through the App Store. Apple has gone, no, you can't, citing that the existing breaches of contract don't mean that they need to renew this App Store account just because the law has changed in one country, which I think is a pretty gangster move, but we are still waiting for the results from the Epic versus Apple trial in the US. That's going to be interesting when we actually get those results. That could actually be any day now. But let's get into your questions. Vicious Dave for Life asks, iCave answers, who do you think will be CEO after Tim Cook, as I found an article of him saying that he's getting old and will retire within the next 5 years. So Tim has actually said that he is not planning to be around for another decade. This is an interview that came out I would say about 6 months ago, but Bloomberg has reported that he is likely to go when the next big product launch happens, the next new category of products, which we assume to be the augmented reality products, the Apple Glass or AR Visor, whatever it turns out to be, and that's assumed to be in around 2025. So I see where you're coming from here. Who's going to come next? Not 100% sure. I think Jeff is a decent candidate. Jeff Williams, who is the COO, the Chief Operating Officer right now at Apple, he's got a very good background, but he's also around about the same kind of age as Tim Cook. I could kind of see it being Eddie Q because he's just got that kind of knowledge base, but he just seems to have stepped back a little bit these days. Craig Federighi is very charismatic and a great host for the events, but I don't see him actually being the CEO. But John Turnus would make a great CEO with a bit more kind of road ahead of him as one of the younger guys. So that's a possibility. Evan Rogers asks, I gave answers in a hypothetical in which both can equip the Vaporware M1Z chip. Will the future iMac Pro or Mac Pro be more expensive? This is an interesting one because it will probably come down to what system has the most expandability with it. So it might be that the M1Z, which I guess I'm not quite sure what we're assuming the M1Z will be. That's the issue here. But I think we're actually going to have the multiple M1Xs is more likely. I think we might well get a Mac Pro that can have 2 or 4 M1X chips. I think we'll probably get an iMac Pro that can have 2 M1X chips. A Mac Pro that can get up to 4. I think that's probably the way they differentiate it. So that would be more expensive. And even the 2 M1X version of the Mac Pro would probably be more expensive than the iMac if it had the expandability to add those other cards to it, which is a bit ridiculous because the displays cost about $500, probably more than that to add. If you look at the iMac versus the Mac Mini, which I guess would be the best other comparison, you're going from $699 to $1299 in order to just add the display. So I guess that's probably a decent comparison, actually. If they're going to have the same capability in terms of performance, the iMac Pro should be more expensive by about $500. I think I've covered all the options there and not really given you any answer at all. Marcin Kowalczyk asks, will the iPhone 14 reveal or leak, in your opinion, prompt Apple to adjust the event on the 14th in any way to address this? 100% absolutely not. Apple never acknowledges leaks. The only time I think they've ever done it was when Steve Jobs walked out on the stage with the iPhone 4 and said, let me know if you've seen this before. Which was quite funny at the time. I don't think any of the Apple execs at this point would go for that. Also, because it's a digital event, I think it's all in the can already. I don't think there's going to be any changes there. But also, if Apple was to go out there and acknowledge it in any way, they're basically saying, yes, it happened, and yes, it's true. They're just bringing attention to the fact that it exists. At this point, it was trending on Twitter with 50,000 tweets. Apple sells 100 million iPhones. Like, it's a drop in the ocean. It's probably not going to affect sales in any way. I think there's probably maybe 100,000 people that might think to themselves, I might hold on another year, but I don't think the mainstream even knows that this leak existed. The tech sphere, maybe. The general public, not even on their radar. All the usernames I wanted were taken asks, loving the iPhone 14 renders, do you think it would be possible for Apple to make laptops in this style, i.e. glass top and bottom with titanium chassis? I'm guessing the larger the glass, the less strength it would have, but an iPhone 4 style MacBook Pro would look gorgeous. I would actually not be massively surprised. I could imagine them doing something like this. And yes, the glass being bigger would make a difference, but it looks like it's thicker. So that's actually going to have probably a lot more strength than you would imagine. It could be laminated in certain ways, like we have bulletproof glass. That's not a thing that doesn't exist, although it is obviously very thick. But maybe they could use similar technology to what Tesla uses on their Cybertruck, because we all know that can't be broken even if you throw big metal balls at it, because it's completely impervious.
Oh my fucking god. Well, maybe that was a little too hard.
But in all honesty, I think the iPad is the most likely thing to get this style. I think the iPad Pro could well have like a massive iPhone 14 look to it, because we've already heard that it might be getting a glass back. We've already heard that it might be getting titanium bands. Don't see why not. You know, it's definitely a possibility for iPad Pro, because that way you're going to enable your wireless charging on it, all that sort of stuff. The glass is transparent to radio waves, so it could help with things like antennas, and I mean potentially the back of a MacBook Pro's display could be a massive antenna that might work pretty well for satellite communications. And there's been talk of satellite communications for Apple. Just saying. 74 Drive asks, iCave answers, hi Dave, with the upcoming California streaming event, are there any rumours of a beefed up gaming version of the Apple TV? Nope, there really aren't, and I've said this for quite a while. I'm not sure that that's the way that Apple wants to go, because the way that Apple works with all of their kind of subscription services and all of their hardware in general, for the iOS side of things at least, not necessarily the Mac, but everything on the iOS side and the Apple TV and the iPad and everything else, is that if you have a current version, if you have a piece of hardware that runs the current operating system, any apps that are brought out for it must, for that platform, basically must be able to run on all the hardware that runs the current generation. So if Apple was to do a souped up Apple TV box and call it an Apple TV running tvOS, then any even high-end games that they produced for it would have to be able to run on everything that runs on it right now, which would be back to the it's A10X in the previous 4K. I think it's an A8 in the fourth generation, like the Apple TV HD, which they still sell. So any games that they brought out right now would need to be able to run on that hardware. So that's a tricky point. So I think if Apple is to bring out dedicated gaming hardware, they're probably not going to call it Apple TV. Also, I don't think there's any plans for it right now. I think more likely is we're going to have a couple of years where we've got the M series chips, and then maybe we'll get an M1 inside something, which is basically an A14X, or maybe we go even quicker than that. Maybe we go to an M2, which would be the A15X. We'll see, but yeah, I don't think there's going to be anything in the next few months at any rate. It looks like Apple's lounge technology is not got a massively quick looking roadmap right now. And Josh asks, I gave answers. I have the Apple Watch SE and the battery goes down really quickly. I've researched online ways to make the battery last longer and I've applied it to my Apple Watch and it only lasts for 7.5 hours, which is really bad. Does your Apple Watch SE battery go down really quickly as well? It really doesn't, and I've had this since the launch day. So my Apple Watch SE, I've literally had since the day it came out, and right now I will get through, if I charged it in the morning, for example, when I wake up, put it on, go to work, I will get home and I will have about 50% of battery left by about 8 PM, probably around about 40% left by midnight, so I could probably get a day and a half out of this thing still. So I think you may actually have a faulty battery. I would get in touch with Apple as soon as possible, like today, and get them to check the battery, because if you've got a faulty battery on it, you are still within the year that it's been released, so they should replace it very, very quickly for you. And I mean, like, call them today and report it, because this is not right. The battery should not be in that state at this point, unless you are doing some crazy stuff on it. I mean, are you playing a lot of Grand Theft Auto on your watch? Okay guys, thank you so much for watching. We will be back on Monday. We have got a bunch of stuff going on before the Apple event on Tuesday. We may or may not do a show on Tuesday morning just because, you know, we're going to be doing a lot on Tuesday afternoon with the live streams. I'm going to be jumping on a couple of pre-show live streams before the event. Then I'll be watching the event quietly, just making some little notes, and then we'll be doing our live stream afterwards. I'll get that booked in. I'll book it in for an hour after the start of the event, but we will start as soon as the event finishes, regardless of whether it's a 45-minute event or a 2-hour event. Stay tuned for that, and we will see you very, very soon. Thanks very much for watching.